This is Barry Zalma speaking for Claim School Incorporated's blog, Zalma on Insurance. Today we're speaking about why the United States is such a great country and how insurance fraud can succeed and help a doctor fund his retirement. This blog post is a fictionalized true crime story of insurance fraud from an expert who explains why insurance fraud is a heads-I-win, tails-you-lose situation for insurers. The story is posted to help understand how insurance fraud in America is costing everyone who buys insurance thousands of dollars every year and costs taxpayers even more, and why insurance fraud is safer and more profitable for the perpetrators than any other crime. Wo-Ping Chen was trained as a physician in Hong Kong. Until Hong Kong was returned by the United Kingdom to the People's Republic of China, he was the best-known orthopedist in the Crown Colony. Fearing problems with the new government, he emigrated to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, as a citizen of the Commonwealth. He worked as an employee of the National Health Service for a year and then obtained a work visa to the United States and crossed the border into the United States only to find he could not work as a physician without a license from a U.S. state and attended a U.S.-based medical school. After 1 year of medical school, 1 year of internship in a Seattle hospital, and 1 year as a resident, Chen was able to restart his life. His first effort upon receiving a license was to apply to the United States government's Medicare and Medicaid system for a medical provider number, which would give the government the ability to deposit funds electronically into his bank account without having to wait for a check to be received and collected. Dr. Wu was a very good doctor, and his practice grew rapidly. He found most of his patients were poor and could only pay through one of the government programs. He was not, as in Canada, an employee. He had to live on the small amounts that Medicare or Medicaid considered proper for the work he did. Each of his invoices was scrutinized, and he was never paid what he billed, even though he knew from meetings with other physicians in Seattle he was billing reasonable and proper amounts for the services rendered. Frustrated and earning less every year than the year before, although he was working harder and longer hours, he told his tale of woe to a colleague over a hospital lunch. "Woe, my friend," the colleague responded. "Don't be upset and frustrated. It's time you used the system to your benefit." "How?" Woe inquired. "You know, the people that review your billing are not physicians. They're key punch operators. If what you bill fits within the requirements of their computer software, money goes into your account in the amounts required by their computer." "Yes," Will replied, "when I speak with them to challenge their decisions, they speak like complete idiots." "Use their stupidity to your benefit." "How?" "Why, by using the CPT codes." "But they just describe services," Will replied. "Yes, so if you do something for a patient that is listed as a 0.2, raise it to a 0.3. "But that would be dishonest." No, the colleague replied, "because they base their payment on the code, and the payments are not realistic, so raising the code up one level will get you paid the correct amount for the services actually rendered." Woe took the conversation to heart and found payments deposited into his bank increased to amounts reasonable for the services he was actually rendering, even if it was not as described. His billings were never questioned. The information went from Wo Chen's office computer to a government agency computer that automatically sent money to his account. His youngest daughter had found a husband, and he was facing an expense of over $100,000 to pay for a traditional Chinese wedding and reception. He did not have the cash. He did, however, have a large list of Medicare and Medicaid patients in the database he created over his years of practice. Woe knew from experience that no one in the U.S. government or their agents would check his billing. He had served the public at low rates for many years. He decided to obtain the cost of his daughter's wedding by using his computer. Woe created invoices for 300 of his male Medicare patients for an office visit and complete blood tests at $250 each. He dated the service carefully so that he showed only 10 of the 300 each day for 30 days. He did the same for 300 female patients for an office visit, a pelvic exam, and an X-ray to check for a potential broken hip, each for only $250. By the end of the month, $150,000 was deposited into his account without question. He had the money for his daughter's wedding, and he did not have to work for it. This is a great country, Woe thought. They send me money when I need it without requiring that I work for it. Dr. Woe knew that the practice of medicine is hard work, the earnings of physicians continuously being reduced by insurers and government agencies. He was getting old. He attended 2 medical schools and was still borrowing money to pay off loans he took to finish school. It was time he considered funding his retirement. Now, as part of his practice, he spent half his time at the local hospital, and he had problems with his office computer, so he hired the information technology person at the hospital to fix his system on a weekend. They became friends. The IT man finished his work at the office and sat down for some coffee with Dr. Woe. "So how's the practice treating you, Dr. Woe?" the IT man asked. "Not bad, but the insurance companies and government keep cutting what I receive." "It is tough. I wish I could help you." "You can," Woe replied. "I will pay you $100,000 more than your fee if you give me a CD-ROM with the identification information of 100,000 hospital patients who are Medicare or Medicaid recipients." "I'm not sure I could do that, Dr. Woe. I could lose my job." "Okay, I'll give you $150,000. The IT man was finally convinced and delivered the disc the next day and received $15,000 in cash from Dr. Woe as a down payment. He used the disc to submit billing for each of the 100,000 patients for the same office examination, X-rays, and a complete blood count. 2 weeks later, $25 million appeared in his account. Dr. Woe Pin Chen paid the IT man $135,000 to complete the fee, transferred the remaining money to his bank in Hong Kong, closed his office, and moved back to Hong Kong, where he retired a very wealthy man. No one questioned his billing. No investigator checked on how one doctor could treat 100,000 patients in 1 month. It seemed no one really cared. Dr. Woe did not consider himself a criminal, nor did the United States government. He just played the system knowing it was operated by people who did not care as long as the correct boxes in the computer were checked. His crime succeeded because he was not greedy. He only did the major crime once. The computer operators at the Medicare payment offices never noticed that he did a cervical exam on an 83-year-old man named Louis Jones. Insurance fraud is often successful, as it was for Dr. Woe, because the government entities and the insurers have little incentive to look for fraud, investigate criminal conduct, or even try to do the job for which the government employees and insurers were charged. Dr. Woe was correct. This is a great country, and it gives away other people's money to anyone with the gumption to ask. That includes my money and yours, and Dr. Woe's success offends me and should offend you. This video was adapted from my blog, Zelma on Insurance, which is available to anyone who clicks on the URL zelma.com/blog. You can subscribe to the blog. It's free, and you'll receive notice of at least 5, sometimes 6 postings a month. You can also gain access to the more than 4,600 blog postings. You can also subscribe for free to the videos on youtube.com or on rumble.com. And if you do, I'd appreciate it if you click on the like button on YouTube or the thumbs up button on rumble.com. And if you're interested in receiving more detail about insurance, insurance law, insurance claims, and insurance fraud, please consider, for a very small fee, subscribing to my Substack publications or my locals community. Thank you for your attention.